Perplexity just rolled out Comet to the entire world, and it might completely change how you browse the web. If you haven't tried it yet, Comet is an AI-powered browser that lets you interact with the internet through Agentic AI while you're browsing. And in this video, I'll show you how it works, and then we'll dive into 3 real use cases. A voice of customer agent for product development, a competitor analysis agent that automates tracking, and a personal business analyst agent that summarizes and fact-checks research across reports. And finally, we'll talk about privacy, because that's actually something you really need to understand before starting to use Comet. This is the future of browsing, and honestly, I'm really excited about this one. If we haven't met before, I'm Ali Salem, and I currently work as a director in a tech company. And on this channel, I'll help you turn tech and finance into your personal advantage. So this is Comet. You can download it in the official website, and I'll make sure to leave a link in the description and pin it in the chat as well for convenience. Now, you access all of the intelligence behind this browser using 2 methods. First, you have your main chat window here. And it's essentially the first thing you're going to see when you pop open the browser. For anyone that have used Perplexity, you will quickly realize that this is just the Perplexity UI. You can use this as a search engine instead of Googling, and you can also use it to execute prompts like you would typically do in ChatGPT. But most importantly, this is where you access all of the agentic capabilities that we'll be using later in the video. The second method that you would use Perplexity Comet is via the assistant, which you can find up here in the corner. And this allows you to interact with the tabs that you have open. And what I find kind of interesting with using Perplexity is that, as you can see, you have a bunch of buttons, very similar to the ones you would see in ChatGPT or Gemini. But actually, when you access the agentic capabilities, the main thing you do is just prompting. And I'm going to do this video a bit differently. I'm not going to go through all the settings in here. Perplexity as a platform is actually a bigger beast to deal with. And I want to make sure that I set the right expectations so you know what you're going to get out of this video. I'm going to be focusing on Perplexity Comet, the browser. And I'll probably make another video where I take you through how to master Perplexity, because it's going to be too long of a video to cover all of that here. Now look, Comet can do a bunch of stuff for you. It can clean your emails by unsubscribing to all your newsletters. It can schedule meetings for you. It can spin up recipes of your choice and then add all the related products in your basket page in your requested online store and a bunch of other stuff. It's really cool, actually. But today I wanted to take you through kind of 3 use cases that you can connect together. And in short, what we're going to do is use case 1 will be that we run a voice of customer analysis to try and figure out product enhancement opportunities. And then we're going to do use case 2, which is going to be a competitor analysis within that space. And lastly, use case 3 will be that we take the output of use case 1 and 2, we cross them over each other and try to find a white space, where essentially you have customer complaints that are not being met by the market right now. And that's going to help us figure out where we should play. All right, so as mentioned, we're going to do some product development where we want to find product enhancement gaps by running a voice of customer analysis. Let's use the same product as we used for the Google AI Studio episode, which was weightlifting shoes, mainly because I'm a nerd that likes to train and has low creativity. So, hey, why not recycle? So we're essentially going to have Comet gather data, categorize it, synthesize it for us so we can see what improvement opportunities we could explore if we were to launch our own weightlifting shoe. And we'll do all of that using the Perplexity chat. And I've built a specific prompt that I'm going to use to run this analysis for us. And by request in the chat in one of the previous videos, I was asked to run through the prompt, so let's just quickly cover it and let me know if this is too much detail and I'll skip it in the future videos. So we're starting off with the persona, or basically telling Perplexity Comet that it is a senior market researcher, just to set the right tone and expectation. Then we're going into tasks where we're telling it what to do. From there, we have the sources, and I'm specifically telling it where I want it to look. Now, I'm not saying that by any means these are the 3 most reliable sources, but in case you are selling to retail, then Reddit and YouTube are 2 fairly good places to start looking. And then I also gave it the option to go for something a little bit more broad. Search on relevant forums for any additional information that might be of help. And then we move on to the data points more specifically. So this is something that is pretty good to know. Were I to have done this in my work, this data model would be way too small. And I actually started with around 10 more data variables than what is outlined here. And I can tell you that Comet struggled. So if you're going to do this type of exercise, you have to scope it into smaller chunks for this to work smoothly. But let's see what we gathered here. So I'm basically telling it to find short quotes from users outlining kind of the complaint itself. And then I'm asking it to figure out if there is a brand or model associated. So think about like if it can pick out which specific weightlifting shoe that this complaint relates to. And then we have categorization, because at some point we'll need to aggregate up the data so we can draw some insights from it. Otherwise, it's just dispersed comments that is hard to do anything with. And lastly, I asked it to categorize the source and the associated URL so I can go back and check it if needed. And then lastly, we have the output itself, where we're telling it to give us a table, basically an Excel or worksheet that we can continue working with. And as you can see here, I have outlined how the table structure should look. This is a good example of a one-shot, by the way. And then I'm giving it some additional contextual steer here by telling it to stay concise and only bring the 10 to 20 most relevant findings. And again, you don't need to reduce it this much. It's just when I have been doing this exercise, I have found that quality trumps quantity, at least with Perplexity Comet right now. And then the last piece is actually quite important. So I'm telling it to begin immediately with research, extract, and then present the table. Because what you might otherwise find, especially if you're pointing it somewhere, because you can actually tell it to, populate a Notion table for you, is that it will pop open the endpoint that it knows that it needs to populate, being Notion, and then it will just spin the wheels. So it will try to go out and figure out where it finds the data, but it's stuck in Notion, so it's not getting anywhere. So for that reason, I'm specifically telling it to start with the research, and then it can extract and synthesize the data. So let's fire this away. And we can see here how it's starting to research the web and compiles up the table for us. Okay, so it's finished gathering the data for us. It's all stacked up in the table. This looks pretty good, and it followed our instructions fairly well. So what we can do now, and by the way, we could actually have done this as a part of the first prompt. It's just that, again, I think it's better to split things up because it runs smoother. You can tell it to open a new tab with a spreadsheet in it and copy the table there. So here we go. Opened up a new spreadsheet. It's populating the table up for us. And by the way, you can go back and see it work real time by clicking reasoning. And you can see kind of the AI breaking down the task into various steps and trying to populate things up as you go. Now, a couple of reflections from my side while it's working. You can see that it's doing the task, but reality is it's not very smooth right now. It's inconsistent, it's actually really slow, and a lot of the times it won't really finish up the task. And that could be due to various reasons. It could be token budgeting, it could be human in the loop guardrails, or various safety triggers that are in place. And on top of all of that, am I using the perfect prompt? No. So could it operate better? Highly likely. But here are my 2 cents, or rather 2 reflections. First, if it requires exceptionally high skills in prompting, then it really won't deliver value in a broader rollout. It would, in that case, have been targeting a very small expert segment that are skilled enough in optimizing their prompts. And we know that is not the intention for Comet because it was released to the wider mass. And I'll use that to segue to my second point, which is that even if it's not perfect at this stage, I still recommend you to use this, because this is how agentic browsers will work in the future. And honestly, it's a great skill to acquire right now, because it will put you ahead of the curve. So it's been going on now for a couple of minutes, and as you can see, it's still working on it. Let's face it, it would just be significantly quicker to copy this over ourselves for now. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So this is how the end product should look like after the agentic AI finishes populating the spreadsheet. Quick pause. I have a favor to ask. Here in Sweden and in many other parts of the world, October is the official Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Breast cancer is the most common cancer globally, and it primarily affects women, with about 1 in 8 developing it in their lifetime. So let's take a moment to support the women in our lives. Our partners, mothers, sisters, and friends. We love you guys. And this is going to be the only call to action that I give. If you'd like to help, consider donating to any organization that you trust. I'll leave a link in the description to one of the organizations that I tend to donate to. But again, take the one that you feel most comfortable with. Stay safe, stay aware, and take care of each other. Okay, so it's time to run our competitor analysis agent. And this time is going to start off very similar to the first use case, where we'll ask Perplexity Comet to run an analysis for us. So I'll drop in my prompt and let's just quickly go through it. The start looks the same. We're giving it a persona where it's now a senior competitive intelligence analyst, because we're gathering market intelligence. Then, just as last time, we're giving it the task. And here comes a little bit of a change. So this time, instead of focusing on YouTube or Reddit, we're going to ask it to target reputable industry and market research firms. And then we're giving it a few shot right below here. So we're telling it what a reputable industry and market research firm looks like in our view, outlining the biggest players. So we have Gartner, McKinsey, Deloitte, and friends. And this time, I don't want it in a table. Instead, I want it to search and open separate browser tabs for me that I can go in and have a look at. Now, I'll tell you right away that a lot of the times, this is where you're going to see inconsistencies, where it might actually drop this into a table for us again, or it might open tabs for us. So we'll see what happens here. Let's scroll further down and look at the data points. As I told you in the beginning of the video, the end goal here is to cover white space. So we want to see where customers feel like they want product enhancements, and at the same time where none of the existing players have an offering to cover. So we're trying to identify a white space. For that reason, this is a good practice to take with you if you're doing this type of analysis. You'd need to structure up data points that are the same. So you can see that I've basically mimicked the data points here. And if you're planning to expand your data model, then make sure to expand it in both of your work streams. All right, let's continue down. And the ending kind of looks the same. I've again given it a one shot where I explain how I wanted to summarize the table. And this is a good practice, by the way. So I'm doing a bit of a mistake here, being a bit hypocritical, saying that you should do it one step at a time, and then I'm asking it for 2 outputs. But at its core, I'm basically asking to give me a table and at the same time open up the reports in separate tabs. It's not going to do that, but that's okay. We can just ask it to conduct the other task after it's finished doing the first one, once it gathers all the data. i.e. this is oftentimes referred to as prompt chaining. I'm giving you guys the unfiltered version here of how it typically looks when I work. So let's fire this away. Exciting. Is it going to give us a table or is it going to pop open a bunch of tabs? And by the way, while it's working in front of us here, in the future, you will be able to ask it to execute multiple tasks in one go. But right now, it is pretty choppy. It's pretty inconsistent. So to reduce that headache, it's better to just stick with one task. And I deliberately wanted to keep all of this in so that you get the right expectation of how it is to work with a browser like this. Because at least today, it's not a plug and play activity. You kind of need to ease into it and figure out how you best interact with the browser. But now it seems to be ready. Let's see. So it gave us a table. It did not open up the tabs. And we can see here that it linked a set of resources. So let's ask it to open up all links from the table into separate tabs in the browser. Here we go, number 1, number 2. So while it's popping all of the tabs open here, I trained quite a bit, but I have never heard about these links. So something to be aware of here, that it didn't quite follow what I asked. Or it could of course be that Gartner and McKinsey haven't done an extensive amount of research in this area. Also a probable outcome. Cool. So we have a bunch of information here. And I just want to show you a really cool trick. Because if you end up on funky websites that you're not sure of, and you see a bunch of statistics that gets thrown your way, and what you can do is you can pop open the assistant, take a snapshot of an area like this. You can also just copy paste the text, by the way. And then you can ask it to validate if this information is true. Search for authoritative resources confirming the validity. Oh wow. All right. So it's gone off to validate if this is true. And the bottom line is that the report is not fully validated by authoritative resources. It looks like the figures that are outlined in the report here are a little bit off, so a little bit lower in some areas, and the KGAR seems to be a little bit higher. Now, this doesn't mean that this is complete garbage, by the way. But what you could do in this case is try to triangulate the data, try to find some additional resources that outline similar figures and see if they're all kind of in the same ballpark. Then you can be pretty sure that the number is somewhere in that ballpark. And actually, there's one last thing I want to show you in our secondary prompt that we built here. First is that you can add a shortcut to the prompts. If you didn't see, I just clicked add shortcut at the bottom, and it now has the whole prompt outlined under the instruction cell. And up at the top, I can write the shortcut command. So if I were to say, if I now save this and do like this, then it will fire off the same prompt, which is really neat. This, by the way, is the same thing as I keep harping about with the text expanders, but here it's built in. And the last thing I wanted to show you is that you can just set up a scheduled task for this prompt by simply prompting it to do so. Add a scheduled task for this prompt. And it will basically go off, think a little bit, and then open up a new window for us. Okay, here goes. So you can set the cadence of how often it should happen. So if it's daily, weekly, every weekday, etc. The time of when it should run, and this could be relevant if you know that there's a specific time during the day where the source that you want to schedule the task for releases its information. You can set the expiration date. So if you set it to run every day, and you can tell it to stop running every day after a certain amount of time. And lastly, you can tell it how it delivers the information to you. So it could give it to you in the browser. You can give it via email, so it will send you an email, or it will deliver this to you in your app if you have the Perplexity app downloaded. Really cool, really useful. Okay, so we've done our voice of customer analysis to try and figure out how we can improve our weightlifting shoe. And we have some data points on our competitors. And now we're going to tie everything together by trying to figure out where there is a white space between the two. Let's drop in our third prompt. Persona and task is the starting point. This time the AI is a senior product strategist. And in terms of tasks, we're telling it to analyze the competitor analysis tabs and the voice of customer analysis, which we have in the spreadsheet. And based on that, identify white space opportunities. In terms of input sources, if you recall in the first use case, I mentioned that you need to take the data and then aggregate it up. These are our aggregated categories that we evaluated on. And now we are going to try and identify white spaces on this level. And the reason why we do that is because we want to understand where in these different categories, which are all very relevant, we should be focusing in our product development. And price is probably not a very good product development category, but it does tell us a little bit about potential other strategic approaches that we can take when we want to launch our weightlifting shoe. So the first step will be to run these categories through the voice of customer analysis, draw the insights, and then go to the competitor analysis tabs, which are essentially the remaining tabs that we have open, and run the same comparison across the same set of categories. And then circling back to the output, which is also something we had in all our previous prompts, I'd like to take all my insights and synthesis in this format, which is it starts off telling me what to do, and then follow that up with supporting analysis of why I should do it. This way, it allows me to go back and forth with the AI to try and figure out whether I believe that this is the right recommendation or not. And then the last thing is just some sanitary points here. So I added a constraint section, prioritized evidence-based reasoning, focus on clarity, not quantity, because you know how the outputs can be with just essentially just a brain dump from the AI, and then you have to figure out the relevant information. And lastly, I added some steering on the conciseness or verbosity, as it's sometimes referred as. And by the way, I'll figure out a way to share all of these prompts with you. This is one of the feedbacks I got in the previous video, so rest assured that I'll have this ready for you in the description when the video is live. So with no further ado, let's fire this away. So the recommendation is for a durable mid-range lifter with superior toe box fit and improved heel construction. Music to my ears. And then it's giving us a couple of kind of key takeaways here, that there's a target gap, so premium durability and an anatomical fit at accessible price points versus current market polarization between cheap and premium. So it's essentially saying that these two points that it outlined in the opportunity, being that it should be a mid-range price with a superior toe fit and heel construction, there isn't any product in the mid-range market that fits those two needs. And that is something it picked up from our voice of customer analysis that the market actually wants. And I'm not going to bog you down with going through all of the recommendations. I think the important thing is to understand that this way you will get some input in a top-down communication manner that is easy to digest. Once you are ready to delve down into the details, you can do so below. And you have all the supporting materials, so it's referencing where it's taking the data from. And I can't be clear enough at this point. This is not like a one flow, you're done, 10 minutes, plug and play prompt that I recommend you to do. This is just a structure. If you're actually attempting to do this, you need to enhance your data model. You need to go back and forth with the AI and enhance every step of the way. And you'll need to do the work. Just because there are agents that can chop off a significant amount of the heavy lift that you would normally need to do when you do these set of analysis, doesn't mean that you can write yourself off the responsibility of conducting parts of the analysis yourself. We're just not there yet. It's an imperfect workflow, and you need to make up for that imperfection when you execute these types of tasks. Now, two last things that I just want to kind of give a heads up on that are good stuff to use. Let's say that you are on a website like this and you want to get the key takeaways from the website. Then there is a button at the top that says summarize the current web page, and you click that and it just starts going through the page and picking out the information that is good for you to know. You also have launch voice mode, which allows you to talk with AI in case you want to interactively discuss what you're working with. And it works very similar to ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other ones that have voice chat enabled in the LLM. Perplexity is amazing, but there are several security risks that you need to be aware of when you're using it. Because essentially, it has access to your entire browser. It can see your history, your open tabs, and potentially sensitive information. And what's both a blessing and a curse is that it has the ability to act on your behalf. And there's even been a term coined for this called Cometjacking, which is essentially a security exploit where malicious websites would hide hidden instructions or prompts in their content or URLs, which would trick Perplexity Comet's AI assistant into performing unintended actions, such as accessing emails, calendars, or connected data. So, in short, it's kind of prompt injection meets browser automation, allowing the attackers to hijack the AI and act against you without you knowing. So with that said, there are a couple of things I want to leave you with so that you can stay safe when you use this. The first is to use incognito mode, and you can access that up in the corner, and then you click New Incognito window. This will disable both memory and retention. Second is to minimize connectors. So if you go to your account, you will see this button here called Connectors. It essentially allows you to push and pull information from various connectors that Perplexity Comet has enabled for you. And it's really cool, but it also exposes everything you have at the endpoints of these connectors. So unless you are regularly using Gmail or calendar capabilities or Notion as I have it here, you should plug it off. So you could just disconnect and connect it again wherever you need to use it. I know it's not ideal and you don't need to do it. It's just a safety precaution that you should be aware of and try to apply as much as you can where it makes sense. And then just some sanitary things. Never share your credentials or personal data via AI actions. Don't let the assistant act inside banking or corporate portals or wherever you're logged into. That's very risky. Make sure that you install the right version of Comet, because there have been a lot of scam apps that you don't want to use. I'll leave a link in the description. If you're gonna Google, make sure that you end up on the right URL. Don't end up on the wrong URL. Jokes aside, go for official Perplexity releases only. So if you see Comet or any other mobile apps that are not Perplexity, don't go for it. That's not the right one. Also, a very good habit is to always have human in the loop. So even if the AI can execute tasks for you, it is better to monitor it. I know it kind of takes away some of the magic of, you do something and then you just let it go do its thing. But we're really not at the maturity level yet where I would be comfortable doing that, and I would not recommend you to do it either. And the last thing is that you should check with your compliance team at your company if you're allowed to use it, and if so, what restrictions or guardrails that you need to be aware of when using it. I personally don't use this at work. If you work in a space where you carry a lot of sensitive data with you in your everyday work, such as patient data if you work in a hospital or financial data if you work in banking, I don't think you're going to be able to use this. But it's pretty cool for personal projects, so even if you're there, you can still do like me and use it for all the stuff that you do after work. Thank you for trusting me with your time. Let me know if you liked it, and let me know if you didn't like it. This channel is for you, so your feedback really matters. Also, let's not forget, let's support the females in our lives. You guys are amazing. And lastly, in case you want to continue your journey on mastering AI stuff, I will just point you to the video over here, which teaches you how to master Notebook LM. Thanks again, and stay safe.